Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Eion Bailey about From, which is now available on Epix. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, Peter. Thanks for having me.
It's exciting. Is it a kind of interesting thing right now? You're doing some interviews with some outlets now that it's kind of out and a few episodes are out. You did some in the beginning of the promotion of the show when the show wasn't out. What's that mindset for you doing these interviews? You're allowed to talk a little bit about more things now, right?
Yeah, and then it's nice if, say, for example, if you've seen the show, we can get into more specific details and we understand what we're talking about. And that's nice because now people have, and not just reviewers or critics or journalists, but people have seen the show and often really responded favorably. So that's also nice to hear. Because before we begin, it's an unknown.
Yeah, it is crazy. It's one of those shows where it's got a lot of kind of elements going on. You see the sci-fi component of it, but for me, I'm a big horror movie fan. So it's really amazing to watch this show, which is, they put a lot of shows in get the horror label on it, and you watch it, it's not super scary, you know what I mean? But this has very scary moments in this show. It doesn't waste some time with the knocks on the door and everything. So my question to you is, with the horror movie landscape and horror just being so big right now, what's it like kind of to be part of that with From on Epix?
Well, unlike you, I don't have a lot of experience with horror. I've never been drawn to watching it. So it's new to me. And there was an aspect of this. What drew me into this project was the psychological aspect.
Yep.
The slasher film concept doesn't do it for me.
Yep.
But the psychological nature of horror, the difference between, say, Friday the 13th or a David Cronenberg movie, like Eastern Promises. The violence in that movie is extreme and harsh and difficult to take, even, or say, but it feels real and somehow looking at the true cost of what violence is. And I'm always interested in that. It's the thing back to Rambo movies when he just plows down a bunch of Vietnamese people. They have they don't mean anything. It could be 20 who died or 150 who died, and it wouldn't matter because they had no humanity to them. So violence is actually, I think, essential to understand and to examine and to look at, as long as it's portrayed for what the real human cost is. If you look at a movie like Fernando Moreira's City of God, you look at violence in that film in a very real and authentic way where you see the true cost.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. That is very true. But kind of to add to that a little bit too, you mentioned the violence and everything. What comes with a lot of that too, you mentioned Friday the 13th. I mean, those and Texas Chainsaw Massacres, those movies, I find sometimes when you're watching them just go 0 to 100. The pace just kind of out of nowhere just expedites, I feel like. And you're kind of, as the audience member, just going wow, what is happening? And I don't know if you might disagree with me on this, but for me watching From, Eion, there is this kind of back and forth with some episodes feeling like a slow burn and then some episodes kind of not wasting any time. So I'm just curious what you think about the pacing of that as well a little bit. Do you kind of see it more as a slow burn, or do you agree with me a little bit where it depends on episodes and scenes?
Yeah, I feel like the pacing works really well. I think it's really well directed. There is something so satisfying as a performer when everyone breathes together and everyone's in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems natural that should happen and would most likely always occur, but it doesn't. There's often an artificial pressure put on top of scene work. Sometimes in television, it's because the edit has to be cut to a commercial or a very specific time count, and there's a lot of scenes, and the episode cannot be a second more than 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So there's some writers fear that or think that the entire episode should be wall-to-wall writing because that's what that's what it's all about, is the writing.
Yeah.
And don't have faith in the director and the actors also bringing something to it that is unspoken. And in this show, the unspoken is allowable and honored. What I convey through a tick or a breath or a glance can sometimes be as valuable as a line of dialogue. And
100%.
the writer, John Griffin, he understands that, to his great credit. If he sees that it can be done, he does in another way. He doesn't mind eliminating that moment of dialogue, because we don't always speak with so many words all the time and in expository ways.
Yeah,
it's a real blessing, and I'm really thankful that that's the show we're on.
It's so cool. I feel like, someone recently asked me like what I love about From, and I didn't know like where to start, to be honest with you. Like I just said, there's so much happening in it. But the thing that I kind of stands out for me is the community component of it. Jim and his family are kind of thrown in a situation like a lot of people in this town now, where it's not even, it sinks into them that they're part of this community. They kind of have no choice unless they want to survive, basically. So it has nothing to do anymore, Ian, about whether they want to adapt or not. It's now like they have to adapt. And I feel like different characters are figuring that out and kind of having different reactions to that. So I'm just curious about that aspect. Like, it's not like there's no choice. Like, you have to be part of the community, basically.
Yeah, it's like life. We're all here. We're all coming out, depending on how you look at it, in the middle of a pandemic or coming out of one. We have all this talk about climate crisis. We have war, and with possibly nuclear war. All these things. Yeah. You could fold. You could just turn into a puddle of tears and decide that it's all worthless, it's all pointless, and just be totally pessimistic and cynical. Or one can choose that the world's always ending, and and when we die, the world has ended to us.
Yeah.
So we might as well enjoy it and find some modicum of happiness and peace. And that's something I like about this story is, although as nightmarish as it is,
yeah,
the strongest aspects of the story are people trying to find their way and still retain dignity. Yep. And in the case of our relationship, my family dynamic, we go into the story frayed, having suffered a tragic family loss. But there's a possibility that if we stick together and work our way through this, we might heal all of our wounds and actually come out of this stronger in the end. If we can accept that this is a really difficult situation and kind of just not fail under pressure.
And they revealed that really well. It's so well done in terms of when you find out about the loss and the kind of the discussions between Jim and his son and everything. I think they do an amazing job there. So another question I kind of had for you is, we learn at some point that Jim is an engineer and he worked on roller coasters and theme parks. That's his profession. So I'm just curious for you, are you a fan of kind of roller coasters, or do you only like these type of roller coasters that are like the roller coasters of emotion, where I freak out every time now I hear a knock on the door because of this show? You know what I mean?
Well, I like a good roller coaster. I'm in Santa Monica, California right now. And since I've been here the last couple of months off and on, and I've taken my kids to the pier where there's a cool roller coaster a couple of times, and they absolutely love it. And because they love it, it makes me love it even more. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know who doesn't like a good roller coaster.
Oh, I know a lot of people that just can't do them. Like, I love them, but I definitely know. It's just maybe, I'll go like Jim. Who knows? Maybe Jim made the roller coaster because I thought that pretty cool, and I'm hoping they tie that in like for all other episodes. I like that. Like, that was said that he is an engineer. He worked on theme park rides. I thought that was a really cool thing. I just want to say.
Yeah, well, you just have to keep in mind for future reference that this guy knows how to build things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, hopefully he puts that to good use.
But it's interesting. That's so cool because there's so many other things. There's like, some people that have a lot of there's some people like that don't know what's going on, and everyone's kind of seeing their different strengths and their weaknesses. And I'm sure we're going to see more of those strengths and weaknesses on Reddit. Like some people are good with technology, Jim's good with building things. There is that component, and I'm really excited to see it kind of unravel, so to speak. What's your favorite thing about being a storyteller, Ian? Because that's what you do basically. Is there anything that stands out in general about your love for storytelling that you can share with me?
Yeah, I feel like storytelling is what heals the world.
Yep.
And sometimes I think, what is the world but a bunch of stories we tell each other?
Yeah.
Because everything is dependent on what we believe it to be and how we perceive.
Yeah.
And there are so many interests in trying to shape any given narrative.
Yeah.
And there's a war for it to control. I mean, and this is I don't even think it's cynical. It's just realistic. A war to control our minds and direct it towards certain things. And it's always been happening and probably always will. And ultimately, if we have our own free will to one degree or another, and we can choose the story that resonates best with us.
Yeah.
And I love offering up, as an actor, I enjoy looking at real human characters and offering up what it seems to me the most authentic aspect of it actually is. So perhaps someone sees it and sees themselves in it in a real way, and offer some empathy to it. Like, maybe the best thing is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. What if this was me? What if I had to deal with this? The more we can put ourselves in other people's shoes, the more empathy we have, the more we understand each other, the less divisive we are, the less we're at each other's throats.
Man, I asked that question a lot, and I don't know if you might have just won the first place trophy for that answer, because that was like an unbelievable answer for storytelling. It's like you knew I was going to ask it.
I think about it a lot, you know.
It's in it, but it's exciting. I think it's just exciting. I mean, you know, the show is so exciting. Like you kind of said, stepping into other people's shoes, stepping into Jim's shoes, basically, who kind of is thrown in all these situations. I mean, he is right now the character that I'm kind of paying attention to a lot right now, Ian, because he has to kind of figure a lot out right now. He has a family.
How many episodes have you seen, Peter?
Pardon me? I've seen up to episode 4.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, but I just can't get enough. I was hooked to this episode, like this show, like after like the first 5 minutes of episode 1. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's so amazing. I'm so happy for you and the cast and crew. And I want to thank you for taking some time to chat with me on Popternative from on Epix. Thank you so much, Ian.
I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure. I like your questions and I like your energy. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Well, everyone keeps saying that about the energy, but I got to be excited because you're on an amazing show right now. And if we're not excited about it, I don't know what we're doing. Like, what are we doing here, right?
Always a good question. I mean, you could extrapolate that and put that onto life. If we're not excited about what we're doing here, then what the hell are we doing here?
No, absolutely. So Epix, it's on Epix, from on Epix. So they can kind of look out for that week by week. More episodes are going to be coming out, which is exciting. And where can people follow you on social media to keep update with everything?
I'm on Instagram and Twitter under my name.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative. Yeah, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Until next time, it's Eion Bailey, who plays Jim in From on Epix, and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.